Okay. Now let me define a variable called play again, and let me give it a value of yes. So this will check if the player wants to play again or not. So I can use the while statement, while play again is equal to yes, or play again is equal to yes, or even play again is equal to, let's say, upper yes, or even play again is equal to yay. So if the player enters any of these responses, we'll be able to play again. Okay. So in those conditions, I'll call my functions here, starting from the beginning. So the first one will be display game intro. That's my first function. So I'm calling my function. And then I'll have my second function is choose road. So let me call that function choose road. And then lastly, I have the check road method function, right? So here I have choose road. And then, so the player will choose a road, right? 1 or 2. And then I'm gonna store the result in a variable, let's say, called road number. So that variable will store the result for choose road. And then I have the check road. So I'll use the check road method, function, check road, and then I'll pass the road chosen by the player, which is stored in road number, right? So I'll pass road number, and then finally I'll have print, do you want to play again? I can have options yes or no, right? And then I can have play again is equal to raw input. Great. So let me explain what I did after this. So I've started calling my function. The first one I'm calling is display game intro. Here we call the display game intro function. We defined that earlier in our program. So when display game intro is called, the program execution goes to the first line here, right? So it will start printing these statements since we called that function. Great. Then now we call the choose road function, right? Right here. So this line, we let the player to choose between road 1 and road 2, right? And then it will return a value and store it in this variable road. Then we have check road number, which is this method. this function. So in this function, the program will randomly choose 1 or 2 as the friendly road. Let's say if the program chooses 1 to be friendly, and then if the player's choice is 1, so 1 is the friendly road, and then he will get a treasure. But if it's the other way around, the monster will eat the player. Great. So once we have that, once the result is displayed, this line of statement will be printed. Would you want to play again? And then row input, yes or no. And depending on that, the player can play or not. Okay, let's play our game. Good. So if I run it, so here I get, you are in a faraway land full of monsters. Ahead of you, you see 2 roads. If you take the first road, the monster guarding the path is calm and friendly and will share all his treasures with you. The other monster, however, is always hungry and will not hesitate to eat you on sight. Which road will you go into? 1 or 2? So if I enter something else, 3, enter, so it will prompt the user to enter a valid choice, either 1 or 2. If I say, let's say, hello, enter, so this will keep displaying. That's the while loop here. So it will prompt the user until the user enters a valid input. Let's say I choose road 1. You approach the road. It's dark and spooky. A scary monster jumps in front of you. He opens his jaws and gives you his treasure. So this time I am a winner. Do you want to play again? Let's say yes. You are in a faraway land, so the display game intro function is displayed here, and then which one would you choose? Let's say I choose 2. Enter, you approach the road. You see the time that sleep function? That's the gap in between, 2 seconds. Okay, here you see I chose 2. It's dark and spooky. A scary monster jumps in front of you and eats you in 1 bite. So the program is working. Do you want to play again? Yes. Okay, let me choose 2 again. Enter, you approach the road. Dark and spooky. He opens his jaws and gives you his treasure. Great. You see it's randomly choosing 1 or 2. Earlier I chose 2 and the monster ate me. And here again I chose 2 and I got a treasure. So it's randomly picking numbers. So I know the program is working. Great. So as a summary, we created a game using few functions. So we have a function here that will display introduction about the game. And then we have another function that will prompt the user to enter choice A or B, which is 1 or 2. And then the system will randomly generate a number, will randomly choose between 1 or 2 to be the friendly road. And then whatever the program decides to be the friendly road, it will compare that to the road the user chose. And then if it matches, the statement is printed. If not, the statement is printed. And finally, we are asking if the player wants to play again. Yes or no. And here we are calling our different functions. Great. And one thing I want to show you is here. Do you want to play again? Yes or no? If I say yeah, it plays again. So let's say I choose 1, you approach the road, it's dark and spooky, scary monster jumps in front of you and then eats you with 1 bite. So I have one assignment for you. Here we are only checking if the player enters yes or Y or upper yes or yeah. What if the player enters some other input? What do you think will happen? Let's say I say no. What do I get? Nothing, right? Great. Let me play. Let me run it again. Choose 2. You approach the road. It's dark and spooky, and it's you in 1 bite. So here I have responses yes or no. What if I enter something else besides yes or no? Let's say I don't know. So nothing happens. So same as in here, right? If the player does not choose yes or no, you can always prompt the user to enter either yes or no. So that's my assignment for you. Okay, I hope you have a good understanding of how we can use functions, how we can use while loops, if loops to build our functions. Great. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you at the next lecture.